Assalamu alaikum, and welcome. We're kicking off a series of conversations, really deep dives, drawing on, well, decades of engagement with the Quran, aiming to explore what it's telling us together in a conversational way.
And welcome from me, too. We're really glad you're joining us. The idea is to cut through some of the complexity, maybe, and get to the heart of the matter.
Exactly. We know you want to get straight to the insights, understand the source material you encounter, and see what it means for your life right now. That's our mission here, to help you unpack these ideas clearly.
We've been spending time with a really detailed discussion, let's just call it the source, where people deeply immersed in these texts explored them. We want to share the core of that with you.
Absolutely. And today we're diving into that source discussion, which focused specifically on the very beginning of Surah Al-Kahf in the Quran, verses 1 to 4.
That's right. We've sifted through that extensive conversation to pull out what seemed most compelling, the potential aha moments,
Yeah, and the crucial takeaways for you. This deep dive is designed to give you a clear, actionable understanding, drawing right from the analysis in that source discussion.
We want to move beyond just a surface read, really get into the layers of meaning the source unearthed, and crucially, how it applies today.
Okay, fantastic. Let's get started then. Right at the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf, verse 1, it starts, Alhamdulillah lazi anzala ala abdil kitaba walam yajal lahu iwaja.
Which translates roughly as, Praise be to Allah who revealed the book to his servant and did not make in it any crookedness.
Right. That first bit, Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah, seems straightforward, doesn't it? But the source discussion really zeroes in on that word, hamd.
It does. And what's interesting is how the source immediately says, hold on, it's not just simple praise like, uvgu, or just saying thanks.
So more than just words.
Much more. The source unpacks hamd by looking at its roots and usage. First, it's about acknowledging something done perfectly. It's appreciating the inherent quality, the rightness of the action and the actor.
Okay, so recognition of perfection.
Yes. And second, it's definitely expressing gratitude for goodness received. But thirdly, and this is interesting, the source suggests it implies a sense of wanting to reciprocate that goodness, a positive response.
Wow, that's much richer. It's not just feeling grateful, it's recognizing perfection, appreciating the act, and maybe even feeling inspired to respond positively.
Exactly. And the source is very clear. This kind of deep, deserved praise, this hampa, belongs exclusively to Allah. Why? Because of what he has done. Perfectly.
And in this verse, it's linked directly to revealing the book.
Precisely. Praise be to Allah who revealed the book. The praise is for that specific, perfect, divine action.
So understanding this depth of hampa, why is that important for you, the listener? How does that change things?
Well, the source suggests it recalibrates how you view praise itself. It's not just a ritual phrase. It becomes a conscious recognition of divine perfection in action, specifically here, the act of revelation. It grounds your gratitude.
It makes you think about why the praise is due.
Yes, and it highlights the difference between that divine perfection and, human limitations. It encourages you to connect your praise to specific, perfect, divine acts, like giving us this guidance, the Kitab.
Okay, let's talk about Al-Kitab then, the book. What did the source discussion bring out about this term? It sounds like it might be broader than just the physical Quran.
That's exactly the angle the source took. While it certainly includes the Quran, they interpreted Al-Kitab much more fundamentally. Think of it as encompassing all revealed laws, decrees, the foundational principles governing existence.
Like the operating system of reality, almost.
Kind of, yeah. They connected it strongly to the concept of yazga. Now, yazga is often translated as destiny or fate, but the source framed it more as what is fundamentally written, the ordained laws and principles set by Allah.
So not random fate, but the established rules.
Exactly. It links back to the root word kitabi, to write. So Al-Kitab is the written fundamental law, the divine blueprint. The source was keen to avoid the idea of passive fatalism and emphasize these are the active underlying principles.
That's a big concept. And the verse immediately tells us something crucial about the nature of this kitab, this divine law, or yazge, walam yajallahu iwaja, and did not make in it any crookedness.
Right, and this is absolutely central, according to the source discussion. The word iwaj, it means crookedness, yes, but it also carries connotations of complexity, distortion, deviation, difficulty.
Like a winding road instead of a straight one. Something hard to follow, maybe deliberately misleading.
Precisely that. The source explained it signifies something convoluted, not straightforward, something you could easily misinterpret or twist.
So when Elijah, he did not put iwaj in the book.
The source sees this as a massive statement about Allah's guidance. It means The fundamental law, the Kitab, is inherently straight, clear, accessible, understandable, not designed to be complex or easily distorted.
It's meant to be a clear path.
A clear, straight path navigable by anyone. And this, the source argued, is radically different from how religion or divine law is often perceived today.
How so? What contrast did they draw?
They pointed out that often religion is presented as incredibly complex, maybe even contradictory, needing layers of interpretation by specialists, by intermediaries, something only scholars can truly grasp.
Like it's full of hidden meanings or requires a special key?
Yes, exactly. But the source emphasizes that this verse says the opposite about the Kitab. Its nature is clarity, straightness. It's designed for universal understanding and application. You don't need an intermediary to get the fundamental message.
Even if you just take Kitab here as the Quran itself, that principle of inherent clarity is powerful.
It's revolutionary, the source suggested. It empowers you, the listener, by saying this guidance is accessible. It's meant for you directly.
That leads perfectly to the next part of the verse.
Yeah.
Who was it revealed to? Allah Abdi, to his servant.
The word abd, servant, worshiper, one who submits. The source connected this directly back to the non-complex nature of the Kitab.
How does that connection work?
Well, if the law, the Kitab, is fundamentally clear and straight, it doesn't demand intellectual gymnastics to grasp its core principles. What it does demand is acceptance, submission, the willingness to live by it. That's the posture of the abd.
So the abd isn't just any person, but someone who recognizes the clarity and value of the guidance and chooses to align with it.
That's the interpretation. It's a dynamic. The guidance is clear. The human response needed is submission. The abd is the one who says, yes, I accept this clear path. The source implied that this submission isn't passive resignation, but an active choice that makes you receptive to that guidance.
So for you, the listener, the question becomes, are you approaching this guidance ready to accept its clarity and live by it? Or are you looking for loopholes, complexities, external authorities to maybe bend the rules?
The abd in this view chooses the straight path because it's clear.
Okay, that lays a really solid foundation. Let's move to verse 2. Seems to build right on this. قُيْمًا لِيُنْذِرَ بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا مِنْ لَدُنْهُ وَيُبَشِّرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا حَسَنًا.
Which translates as, straight, to warn of a severe punishment from him, and to give good tidings to the believers who do righteous deeds, that they will have a good reward.
That first word, kaiman, seems to echo no crookedness.
It absolutely does. The source highlighted it reinforces that straightness, but adds a sense of being actively upright, firm, reliable, constantly guiding correctly. They used a strong Turkish word, sapasalam, solid, unshakable, always right.
So the Kitab isn't just not crooked, it's actively, reliably straight and guiding.
Yes, a source of unwavering truth. And the source pointed out that this very quality, this qayyim nature, is what makes the consequences mentioned next, the warning and the good news, so certain. Because the law is firm and clear, the outcomes are definite.
Let's look in the first outcome, the warning. لِيُنْذِرَ بَأْسًا شَدِيدًا مِنْ لَدُنْهُ, to warn of a severe punishment from him.
Yunthir is to warn, basan shadidan, a severe punishment or consequence, and crucially, min ladunu, directly from him, from Allah.
Not just some random bad luck, but a direct result.
Exactly. The source stressed this. The Kitab warns of a definite, severe consequence for actions that violate its clear principles. It's framed as cause and effect within Allah's just system. Deviate from the straight path, and there's a built-in severe consequence directly from the lawgiver.
Okay, clear warning. Then there's the flip side, the good news. Wa yubashira al-mu'minina, and to give good tidings to the believers.
Yubashira, to give good news, joyful tidings, and it's specifically for al-mu'minina, the believers.
Good news for believers. Sounds positive. But wait, the verse doesn't stop there, does it? And neither did the source discussion. It specifies which believers.
This was a massive point for the source, absolutely crucial. The verse immediately qualifies it. Alladina yamaluna as-saliyati ana lahum ajran hasanan, who do righteous deeds that they will have a good reward.
So the good news isn't automatic just for saying, I believe.
Not according to this analysis. The source strongly emphasized that faith, iman, here is presented as inseparable from action. Specifically, yamaluna al-saliyati, doing righteous deeds. The promise isn't just for believers in name, but believers in action.
They mention that idea found elsewhere, that belief is tested through action.
Yes, referencing the principle that simply claiming faith isn't the end of the story. True faith manifests in how you live, in your deeds. The good news is for those whose belief translates into righteous action.
Okay, so what are these righteous deeds? I'll say at it. The source connected this powerfully to the idea of sul.
Yes, and this was probably the biggest practical takeaway from the source's whole discussion of these verses. They defined sali amel, righteous action, as any action rooted in or leading towards sul.
And sul, what did that mean in this context? Not just peace in the sense of no war, right?
Much broader. The source explains sul as embodying constructiveness, yapachi, positivity, reconciliation, being solution-oriented, suzum adaklin, actively making peace and creating harmony. It's proactive.
So a righteous deed isn't confined to ritual acts. It's any action in any sphere of life that is constructive, positive, and aims for resolution and harmony.
That's exactly it. The source really pushed against limiting righteous deeds to just say mosque activities. The defining quality is this action constructive? Is it positive? Is it seeking solutions and peace? That applies everywhere.
Everywhere. Can you give some examples they used?
Sure. They talked about prayer. Does it make you more peaceful and constructive in your dealings? Fasting, does it build empathy that leads you to act to solve others' problems? Then relationships. Family, are your interactions building harmony, resolving conflict? Neighbors, are you a source of good or friction? Work employer, employee, are your actions fair, constructive, promoting mutual benefit?
Business dealings too.
Absolutely. Are they honest, fair, contributing positively, or exploitative, creating conflict? The source applied this lens everywhere. In every interaction, ask, is this action based on soul?
That makes righteousness incredibly practical. It's a constant check on your conduct in daily life.
It really is. And the source lamented that, even if people know the verses, this application of sul in everyday life is often missing. If your actions consistently lead to conflict, deadlock, negativity, then are you truly performing saliyat?
A challenging question for self-reflection. And for those who do live this way, whose actions are based on sul, what's the promised outcome? Analahum ajran sasanan. That they will have a good reward.
Ajanasanan, a good, beautiful, fitting reward or recompense. The source stressed this isn't just a maybe, it's a certainty. The phrase mahakak onon isindir was used, it is definitely, specifically for them. It's a guaranteed outcome for living by the Kitab through sul-based actions.
So for you, the listener, this is the specific good news. If your actions are consistently constructive and solution-oriented, there's a guaranteed beautiful outcome within Allah's system.
Yes. The firmness, the qayaman nature of the law means both the warning and the reward are locked in, based on your choices and deeds.
Okay, let's turn to the fourth verse. This introduces a very specific warning. وَيُنْثِرَ aladina qalu itakatha Allahu waladan. And to warn those who say Allah has taken a son.
Now, on the surface, this is a clear theological statement rejecting a specific belief.
Right. But the source discussion again went deeper. They didn't just state the rejection. They explored why someone might hold such a belief.
Yes, they offered a fascinating psychological and maybe societal interpretation.
Psychological. How does that work for a theological point?
The source suggested this idea that Allah needs or has a son, or perhaps any kind of special intermediary, can sometimes arise from human feelings. Feelings of inadequacy, maybe sinfulness, a fear of facing a perfectly just system based purely on merit, on hakadith.
Merit, you mean what you've actually earned through your actions.
Exactly. If you feel you haven't done enough good deeds, maybe you've done bad ones, and you fear the severe punishment from verse 2, you might look for a way around that direct accountability.
Like a loophole or special treatment.
Precisely. The source made a very direct comparison to the worldly concept of seeking torpor.
Ah, torpor, pulling strings, nepotism, getting unfair advantage through connections.
Yes. That desire to bypass the rules, to get special favor you haven't earned through merit. The source argued that believing Allah has a son who can intercede, or needing any special intermediary, can be a projection of that same human desire for torpor onto the divine system.
So it stems from discomfort with a purely merit-based, just system, wanting a shortcut because you doubt your own standing.
That was the core of their analysis. It's wanting someone on the inside to help you out instead of relying on your own soul-based actions and taqwa.
And they contrasted this with the Quran's emphasis elsewhere on taqwa.
Strongly. They implicitly referenced verses like the one in Hujurat that were created in nations and tribes to know each other. But the noblest in Allah's sight is the one with the most taqwa, the most consciousness and protective living. True value comes from your piety and actions, your hakadish, not connections, lineage, or intermediaries. The Kitab, being straight and non-crooked, describes a system fundamentally based on merit, not torpor.
What are the deeper problems with seeking this divine torpor, according to the source?
Well, first, they argued it subtly implies a lack in Allah himself, like he needs a partner, an assistant, a son. Second, and perhaps more relevant to the earlier verses, it undermines the whole principle of direct accountability. If you can get by via an intermediary, what happens to the certainty of reward and punishment based on your deeds?
It weakens personal responsibility.
Exactly. And it also devalues the individual. It suggests you aren't capable of connecting directly with Allah through your own efforts, your own sulut. You need someone else.
This links back to the abed, the servant who embraces the clear law directly.
Perfectly. The source used the phrase, ken dein done, turn to yourself, look within. This whole torpor mentality, seeking intermediaries, keeps your focus external, blaming society, relying on others. But the warning in this verse, the source suggests, is a call to look inward.
To recognize your own potential and responsibility within this just system.
Yes. Recognize your inherent value. The source even touched on figures like Yunus or Rumi finding the divine within, suggesting that the potential to connect, to understand, to live by this guidance, pegamberdik bastanın dizde olduğunu, the essence of receiving guidance is within us, is inherent. The real work is internal. Self-knowledge and acting according to the clear law.
Okay, if we weave all these threads together from Hamda's recognition of a perfect system to the clear, non-crooked kitab, the abod who submits, the certainty of consequences based on sulta versus deviation, and the rejection of torpor, what's the synthesized message of these 4 verses, according to the source?
The picture that emerges is one of profound coherence and justice. You have Allah's fundamental law, Kitab Yazga. It's perfectly clear, straight, Kaiman, no iwaj, no complexity meant to trip you up. It's revealed to the servant who is willing to accept its clarity.
And this system has guaranteed outcomes.
Absolutely guaranteed. It reliably warns Yuntira of severe consequences, Basan Sharidan, for actions that deviate, actions not based on sooth. And it reliably gives good news, Yubashira, of a beautiful, fitting reward, Ajran Asanan, specifically to those believers whose faith is manifested in sul-based actions, Yamaluna Asaliti.
And because this system is so perfectly just, clear, reliable, and based entirely on merit, Hakadish, with absolutely no room or need for favoritism or intermediaries, torpor.
That is why Allah alone deserves that deep, perfect praise, the hum mentioned right at the start. The praise is for the perfection and justice of the system he established.
The certainty of it all is really striking. Both the warning and the reward are presented as definite.
Yes, the source stressed this. Not maybe, not possibly. They are certain outcomes within the law. No randomness, no escaping consequences, no unearned rewards via connections. It's pure cause and effect based on your actions.
Even if we don't see it immediately, life can seem unfair sometimes.
The source acknowledged that. The results aren't always instantaneous, which is why Serber patience, steadfastness is needed. But they argued the law is always operating. Its effects are real, observable in history, in society, in individual lives, if you understand the principles.
And Allah is overseeing this.
Yes. The source described Allah's relationship to this system using the term Muhaymin Olan, the overseer, the guardian, the one constantly present, watching, ensuring the just operation of his law, not distant at all.
And that reward, the Ajran Esanan, verse 3, adds something about its duration.
Ah, yes, the word ebida appears there. The source highlighted this means eternally, continuously. The beautiful reward for living a life based on salat isn't temporary, it's lasting, continuous. Devamilyolan, that's part of its beauty.
So let's bring it right down to the practical level for the listener. Based on everything the source discussion unpacked from these 4 verses, what's the core takeaway for how you should live?
The practical takeaway, according to the source, is this. If you ground your life in the clear, straight principles of the Kitab, making constructive, positive, solution-focused action the basis for your conduct in all areas, and if you fully trust the justice and merit-based certainty of Allah's system without seeking shortcuts or intermediaries, that is the path to deep, lasting happiness.
And the alternative? What does a life not lived this way look like? according to them.
They contrasted it with a life chasing fleeting material things, giving in to negative pressures, or just living according to flawed societal norms instead of divine principles. That kind of life, they suggested, can feel like a hell, Sehenim, even here and now, full of anxiety, conflict, maybe feeling like you're living Bashkasin and Hayatana, someone else's life, not your own authentic, responsible existence within God's plan.
It sounds incredibly empowering, actually. It puts the power and responsibility back with the individual.
It really does. The source emphasized your inherent value, your capabilities, your potential to connect directly and live according to this guidance. The journey is internal, kendin done. Know yourself and act righteously, trusting the just system.
Okay, let's try to summarize the core insights from this deep dive into Surah Al-Kahf 1-4, drawing from that source discussion.
First, hamd isn't just praise. It's deep appreciation for Allah's perfect, just, reliable system, especially his act of revealing the clear guidance.
Second, Al-Kitab isn't just a book, but Allah's fundamental law or destiny, clear, straight, non-complex, accessible to everyone directly.
Third, this divine law operates with absolute certainty, definite warnings for deviating, non-silly actions, and definite, beautiful, lasting good news for believers who act based on sul.
Fourth, true believers are defined by actions specifically, actions rooted in soul. Constructiveness, positivity, seeking solutions, and peace in everything you do.
And fifth, the warning against saying Allah has a son is interpreted deeply. It warns against seeking torpor, intermediaries, or shortcuts, which stems from misunderstanding Allah's perfect justice and underestimating your own ability and responsibility to connect directly through righteous action.
The source discussion seemed to crystallize these ideas into some core concepts, almost like slogans. Allah yasa sachiktur charpukluk yoktur. Allah's law is clear. There is no crookedness.
Iman sutladayla mele anlam kazaner. Faith gains meaning through suda-based deeds.
Akadish kazindia torpil yoktur. Recompense is certain. There is no favoritism.
And maybe most importantly, gerçek desersenin içindedir. True value is within you.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If you truly internalize this idea from the source that Allah's system is perfectly just, based entirely on your own merit and soul-based actions, with zero possibility of torpor or needing intermediaries, how does that change the way you interpret your own life experiences? When you face challenges or achieve success, does this understanding make you look outward, searching for external factors, blame, or mediators?
Or does it compel you to turn inward, to focus on your own choices, your actions, your potential, and your direct responsibility within this clear, straight, and fundamentally just divine system?
Something powerful to reflect on. We really hope this deep dive into the source discussion on the opening verses of Surah Al-Kahf has given you some clarity, maybe some aha moments, and practical insights for your life.
We invite you to continue exploring the Quran's message, perhaps reflect further on these verses, and definitely join us for our next deep dive as we continue these conversations.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration.